Thanks everybody for joining. Hold on, Roy just sent me a text here. Okay, he's telling me that they are muted and it still might turn up green on our screen. So that explains it. Thank you everybody. We are going to go ahead and start with the annexation study update. We've got Peter Bluestone with the UGA Carl Vinson Institute. Now that we're in the, we got our technology all figured out and we're able to get together like this, we're able to start doing some business that's not COVID-19 related. And I think that, Peter, you may be our first item back to the new normal item of business. So when you're ready, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I am looking for my slides. Are they on my screen or your screen?
They should be on your screen, and you are the presenter, so you'll be able to pull them up. If you just go into your computer and find them, you'll need to just share your screen.
Just share my screen. Okay, so let's see.
It's the little computer icon at the bottom. You just turn it green, and then we can see everything on your screen. And let me go ahead and turn my screen off so that you can do that.
Okay. All right. Main screen, share. All right, let me get the presentation going. Okay, go to meeting. And
got it.
You got it. Okay, let me get the slideshow. All right, play from start. Thank yous. All right, is everybody good?
My donation.
Okay. Thank you all. So this is just going to be a review of the study. And just one minor note, I am from Georgia State University, Center for State and Local Finance. But
my apologies. My note said UGA. Sorry about that.
That is okay. They're a fine institution, and we collaborate with them often.
Amen. Go.
Okay. So let me just give you a brief overview of what I'm going to go through. Just a little bit of the geography and demographics of the annexation areas, the revenues, major sources and estimation methods, expenditures, major sources and estimation methods as well. Touch on some areas of uncertainty, give you a quick summary, and then we'll have some time for questions. All right. So this is the map. The gray area is the current city of Smyrna. We've divided up the annexation parcels into 4 large groups, or somewhat large, based essentially on their geography. Start up at the top with these little islands here. This is the North Annex. This is the smallest of the areas we study. We go to the east. This is the second largest, and it has the most population. The southern area down at the bottom is the largest by area, second largest in population. And then the eastern area consists of, again, a couple of islands, a main area and this island over here. So looking at the demographics, this slide shows demographics shares relative to the city of Smyrna. And you can see we have it broken down by the individual areas, but I'll just talk briefly about all the areas. If all the areas were annexed, the population would increase by 64%, land area by roughly 57%, road length by about 55%. Per capita income is similar, a little higher in the annexed areas, and the median home value is, again, a little bit higher in the annexed areas. This is being driven by the areas in the east and the south. You can see the median home values in the east is considerably higher than the current Smyrna median value, and income in the south, the median income is considerably higher. And again, you can see the population, roughly half the population relative to Smyrna is in the east and the south. A quick note too, as you can see in the bottom, there's not many businesses in these areas. So as we'll see when we look at revenue, there's not going to be a lot of business license revenue and that kind of thing. So let's go to revenues. The main source of revenues is property tax. That accounts for 64% of all new revenue in these annexed areas. A couple additional larger sources: insurance premium tax, franchise fees, intergovernmental revenue, and municipal court. All other accounts for about 8%. This is like your hotel motel tax, business license, etc. And as I mentioned, these are relatively small because of there's not many businesses. Let me break down the property tax. This is real property. Again, most of your value is coming from the east, roughly 8.4 million out of the 12 million. A good share again from the south, 2.7. Very little from the north and the west. Again, these are smaller areas. Not a lot of that property assessed value there. There is some business personal property tax. This is for equipment, machines, and that kind of thing. It's a little bit of a misnomer, business personal, but that's what it is. The TAVT, motor vehicles, that's almost $1 million, and all other taxes account for a pretty small share, 0.3. All the property taxes, pardon me. Next, all the other sources of major revenue we were looking at. Insurance premium. So this is allocated from the city of Smyrna just on a per capita method, and that's how it's paid out to the county. It's based on per capita. Franchise fees are again almost 2 million. That's basically per capita again, but we do look at the share of commercial property. For franchise fees, the unincorporated area only gets to collect from cable TV, but if it were to be incorporated, it would be able to collect from the utilities broadly, electric, natural gas, as well as phone. And so we adjust a little bit for commercial property as they tend to use more electricity. Intergovernmental revenues, this is about 1.4 million. The three main sources are the Cobb MOU. This is the 6-city agreement, which helps to supplement the police force for cities that provide it, as Cobb doesn't have a dedicated fund for that. The LMIG is the local maintenance for roads provided by the state, and CDBG is the community development block grants. Again, that's a bit of a complex formula, but we essentially allocate that by per capita shares, as the demographics are similar to Smyrna. The MOU is by far the largest source of revenue of those three. Municipal court, 1.2 million, and that's allocated, again, per capita shares from Smyrna. So looking at expenditures, the largest expenditure is in public safety, 10.5 million. General government is next. You got public works, community services, and then governance at a very small share. Note the two largest expenditure categories account for about 80% of all expenditures in the new annexed areas. And again, this is all for annexed areas. So looking at these individually for the largest shares, the general government expenditures, the largest is building and plant, 6.7 million, and again, about 80% of all spending in this category. And these are all allocated based on the per capita method from the city of Smyrna. There's no reason to believe that there's going to be any difference in the general spending patterns in the annexed areas compared to the city of Smyrna. In some of these, we do, for instance, we do allocate some additional personnel in the finance department for additional meter reading and things like that, but that's a relatively small amount of this 0.8 million. Looking at public works, so we spoke to the public works department and the director there, and we allocated these expenditures based on those conversations and emails. And you can see that in terms of personnel and equipment, most of the expenditures are going to be for equipment, roughly $1 million, about $500,000 for personnel. We were told that if all 4 annexed areas were to be added, there would need to be a new facilities, public works facility to help maintain all the new equipment and house additional personnel. That was estimated to be $2 million. Talk a little bit more about these facility costs towards the end. Oops, pardon me. Looking at public safety, again, we spoke to the fire chief and the police chief, Chief Acree and Chief Lee of the police department and their team, and worked together to come up with these estimates. You can see that for equipment and vehicles for police and fire, they're pretty similar. Personnel is fairly similar as well. Again, roughly 1.4 million, 1.3 million for the vehicles. Personnel is a little bit more for the fire department, 1.7 versus 1.3 for the police department. The big difference is in the fire department. If all 4 areas are annexed, which include the southern area, then there's going to be a need for a new station based on guidelines that require service areas to be within 5 miles of an existing station, and that southern area is not. So if only the southern area was annexed, the station would still be needed. So that's a big differential. The police department did not indicate that they would need any new facilities. So let's talk a little bit about the areas of uncertainty here. In our revenue section, we were concerned, and these are minor concerns, with the assumption is that zoning will stay the same. Obviously, if there are changes in zoning, there could be changes in assessment, and that could affect property tax values. But again, values have been fairly steady over the last several years. But of course, in these times, all bets are off. But anyway, that was the assumption that was made when the study was done. A little bit of potential uncertainty with the property tax data. There were some missing. We had parcel level data with assessments and zoning codes, as well as the building codes and land use codes for the city of Smyrna. The zoning codes were for Cobb County, and those are the ones that we utilize to designate the property commercial, residential, industrial. A small number of those were blank, and so we had to use the overlapping data for those that were filled in for the Cobb County simple zoning code and the more complex building codes used in Smyrna, and allocate based on those shares. Again, there wasn't very many. The value of the parcels was relatively low, around 1%, and the number of parcels was around 10%. So these were essentially small parcels and low value. Looking at expenditures, I want to put this chart up that illustrates what we know about the Smyrna total average costs, and these are per capita versus the annexation area average variable costs and average total costs. So you can see, starting with the police department, that the annexed areas are coming in at roughly $88 per capita, and that's all variable costs, versus the total average cost for Smyrna for $136. So again, in Smyrna, that's going to include the facilities cost. So we think that that's a pretty good ballpark there. Again, for comparison, with fire, you can see the average cost for Smyrna are about $94. For the annex areas, variable costs are $70, but when you add in the fixed costs, we're up to $180 per capita. Again, this is likely due to the way Smyrna has, and cities generally pay for these facilities. They don't generally pay for them all at once in the 1 year. They pay for them over time, issuing bonds, traditionally, revenue bonds. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Finally, in public works, we're looking at some pretty low variable costs, and then at $37 versus the total of $123. And then when you add in that fixed cost of the new facility, $93. So these may be a little bit on the low side, potentially, when we compare those to what's currently being spent in Smyrna. So let me summarize here and then talk a little bit more about the bond financing versus the assumptions we made when we did the report. And the discussion of the bond financing is in the report as well. So you can see for all areas, the revenue is roughly 22.8 million. Expenditures are 23.6 million. These are driven primarily by revenues and expenditures in the East and the South. As we saw earlier, the East has fairly high property tax revenue and other sources of revenue, so they come in at roughly 15.3 million. The South has less property tax revenue, comes in at about 5.2 million. And the expenditures, we allocated the facility for the fire department to the South and the public works to the East. And so those are the lion's share of the expenditures there, 9.4 and 10.10 million. But when we think again about how cities traditionally pay for these facilities, such as a new fire station or a new public works facility, cities traditionally use a bond financing. And when we use, sort of the average of Smyrna's bond payments, we estimate that roughly $6 million could be taken off of this annual estimate for expenditures if Smyrna was to use, again, the average bond financing it has in the past. The reason why we in these types of studies like to stick to a one-year comparison is to try to make it as apples to apples as possible. This study isn't a budget, and when people are trying to evaluate, what are all the costs and all the expenditures, it's much more straightforward if they can look at just a one-year snapshot rather than have to do the math about, well, this is we're financing this with bonds, and so over time it's going to cost this much versus this we're paying up front, and all those different kinds of accounting things. But certainly, again, for cities, traditional bond financing would cut the annual expenditures by quite a bit. So I'll stop there. Thank you for your attention, and I'll take questions.
Peter, this is Tim Gould. I got a question for you on the revenue there. Just to make sure, I think I heard you say this, so we'll make sure I got it right. Could you go back to that last slide?
Back up one more slide, sure.
Yeah, so to make sure, so if we amateurize the capital expenditures in some way, we're saying our revenues would still be about 22.8 million, and then our annual expenditures, give or take, would be roughly 6 million less than the 23.6 you show there now. So annual expenditures would be 17 million.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Just in general, thanks for this analysis. It's really interesting and a good read as well. Just on just a question about the granularity of this. I know you divided up, I think, logically north, south, east, and west. Particularly, in each one of these areas, or maybe in one or two particular areas, are there areas that look like kind of zones where the expense would be higher or the revenue would be higher versus others? I'm thinking about, like, are there certain zones, hot zones, that might be attractive for one reason versus another reason?
So we, again, when you're thinking about revenue, anywhere that's going to have high value property is going to generate more revenue. And as this is generally, there's not a lot of commercial space, so your expenditures across these areas are likely to be fairly consistent. It's mostly residential. To the extent that there's higher density residential, you might think that there might be slightly higher expenditures. But again, when we think about areas that are just smaller, you're just not going to have a lot of expenditures. For instance, in that northern area, the city is pretty based on our conversations with the department heads, the city is pretty well positioned to take on those areas with the current staff that they have. But when you get to the, particularly the large area in the south and the large area in the east, that's where you're going to have large additional expenditures in public safety and in public works.
Any other questions for Peter?
Yeah, all this, just want to make sure I'm heard this right. So all this is basically just looking at status quo, right, as far as property values, current uses, no look as to what would change if it was annexed in and what any potential like future land use. It's all about current status quo, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Peter, you got an opinion on or experience on annexation, about the mechanisms of doing it, and could you comment on?
We discussed that in the report, and that's a that's a tough question. You really got to you got to kind of have your pulse, and you all will have a better sense of it, obviously, than I on your constituents. There's different methods, and some are, the 100% method is obviously, you're going to get total buy-in, but there's other methods that don't require total buy-in, and you really have to kind of get a sense of how the community feels. There is clearly interest in these areas with potential new cities forming. About where people think is a good fit for them. That's not likely to be 100% consistent throughout these larger areas in the south and the east. So it's a tough call, but again, this opportunity for annexation doesn't come up that often for these large areas, and so I think those are things that the council will have to weigh.
Have you been part of a legislative process of annexation anywhere? Separate from creating a city,
We generally aren't involved in the annexation legislative process. Again, it tends to be fairly local. And so, we'll do these studies, but we are not called on by the legislature to testify or offer counsel. Again, these are, once we've done the analysis, these tend to be questions for policymakers and their constituents, and so that's beyond our area of expertise.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Peter, this is a great look, and I know this is many months of work. Thank you so much for all your effort in this, and really gives us a good picture of what we're looking at to make these decisions going forward. Any other questions from council members or staff before we let Peter go to the rest of his evening? All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Peter,
for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you,
Peter.
Good night.
So, council members, we'll look at this a little more closely in the next little while and see what the will is of this body to do here. Whether it's a portion of this, none of this, all of this, and go from there. But at least we have all of the information now. The next item on the agenda is the proposed non-discrimination ordinance. This is something that was brought to us last fall under the previous mayor and council, and then Scott started working on it. We had the election, and then I had discussions with some council members as recently as about 6-7 weeks ago about putting this forward, this discussion at a committee of the whole meeting. And then the pandemic hit. So that's where we're at. We're, as I was saying earlier, now that we're at a place where we've made all of our logistical decisions from a council perspective, and we can get together. We got all our technology figured out. We can start getting back to business that we needed to take care of, whether it's the annexation study, this or whatever else. And this was one of the things that was forefront in my mind because of its importance, and I wanted to go ahead and bring it up now and try to get something done. And I think we're all on the same page that there's no place for discrimination of any kind. It shouldn't exist in our city. It shouldn't be tolerated in our city. And so now the discussion is just how to approach this so that we have a solid, enforceable policy that fixes the problem and any future problems that may arise in the future. So in the past discussions about this issue, this ordinance have been whether we do a resolution or an ordinance, or how do we address it? Those questions stem from questions around enforceability of an ordinance. But I think that as we move forward, most, if not all of us, agree that a resolution would really just be window dressing and not really do anything. And I'll tell you personally, I've given this a lot of time and attention, and I'm in the posture that an ordinance is what we need. And so now we just have to figure out how to do it right. If we create a policy, an ordinance that strongly states that discrimination is not tolerated here in this city, and that also provides sound mechanisms for penalties and enforcement of violations, then it's something that will truly be great for this community. So as I said, we've been working on this. Scott Cochran has put in hours and hours trying to get this right, looking at some of the other cities that have done this, how we're different and what would work for Smyrna. I think we've gotten to a good place where we figured out how to add penalties for criminal violations of existing city ordinances if there's discrimination involved. But the discussions continue, and even as of today, with some of the council members, and I spent, I know, at least 3 hours on the phone with different folks today, and Scott, and I think we've got a little bit of work left to try to address this fully. And as I said, other cities have these ordinances, but we want to make sure that we do what's right here in Smyrna, and what we present is in our purview as a city government entity. Whatever we put forward is enforceable, and that we have no unintended consequences. And I think this is an important enough issue that it's fully vetted and gets the attention it deserves. And like I said, we want to get it right. So that's where we're at. And I'll turn it over to Scott for comment. I know you've spent a lot of time on this, and turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. So this really is the first of a couple of phases that we're going to bring forward with you all. So the other phases are going to require charter amendments. So what we have here is what we could do under the existing charter without any amendment to the charter. And for a charter amendment, there are requirements that we probably can't meet now until this pandemic is over, because we've got to do certain things with the Superior Court clerk and things like that. So this is the first of a couple of ordinances that I think we're going to bring forward with you all. This was the one that was pretty easy, and what it is, it's really two phases. The first phase, or it's a two-pronged ordinance. The first phase is it's a statement of policy and a declaration that discrimination is not tolerated in Smyrna. That same policy statement we are going to propose in the second phase of this non-discrimination ordinance that's to come later. So there's a strong statement of policy, and then we turn it into basically a hate crime type sentence enhancement for violations of Smyrna Code, right? So that's all this part is, and this is the first phase. Now there's a more comprehensive ordinance in the pipeline that I have sent out earlier. It needs a little bit of change. There's a more comprehensive ordinance that is a lot like what some of the other cities are doing. It has a process for bringing forward claims of discrimination, and a process to bring forward those, and a process to try to reconcile those. And if they're not reconciled, it's got a process for trying those violations in our city court. But that's, in order to do that, we need to amend our charter, right? So that's down the road. What we have here, and it's up to you all on whether you do this piecemeal or just wait and do them all at the same time. But because we could do what we brought forward today without any charter amendment, that's why it's before you. So today, what it is, it's basically an ordinance that says that if someone commits a violation of city ordinance and they do it targeting a specific protected class of people that are protected by the anti-discrimination laws, then in addition to the punishment that the court would usually give to these people, the court would announce at sentencing phase a enhanced punishment. Here's what you would have got ordinarily for violation of this charge, but because of the discrimination element, you're going to be given this additional sentence. So it's really that simple, but it's got a policy statement of that's going to be included in the rest of the anti-discrimination ordinances that we bring forward, that is very strong in the fact that this city deems inclusivity to be an important attribute of the city, and outlaws discrimination of any kind. So an example of how the current ordinance, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves for what's down the pipe, because that's a whole nother discussion that I think it's going to be hard to do in a meeting like this. We're on a computer with little squares of everybody. But a good example of how this ordinance would apply would be if someone got into some sort of an altercation, and that altercation rose to the level of disorderly conduct, right? And as part of that altercation, we find out through the investigations, our police finds out that there were discriminatory things said, statements made, and it looks like the reason for the altercation was a result of somebody's status, then that would be prosecuted with the possibility, or not possibility, if convicted, there would be an enhanced penalty. Another example would be someone destroys property in violation of city ordinance, and the destruction, say somebody, for instance, paints a swastika on, or another form of that demonstrates a hate crime, then there would be an enhanced penalty for that. So that's all. This what we have now is pretty simple. What's to come is more comprehensive, but that's what we have today is what I just described.
And I want to make clear that my intention is to go forward with the next phase. And it's up, like you said, it's up to y'all whether you want to do it all at once, or whether y'all want to pass something like this that's been drafted on Monday, and then revisit the charter amendments and the next phase when that time is right, which would probably be when this pandemic situation is over with and we're able to get together and have had time in the meantime to flesh this out a little bit more, what that looks like. Some of these other municipalities have hearing officers, as Scott said, and processes for dealing with the non-criminal, not the secondary offense, but an actual violation of ordinance and how they crafted it. We just want to make sure we get it right. So I'll throw it out to the council for comment and for your wishes as far as whether we do this first on Monday as drafted and then come back, or whether we wait and do it all as one thing. Yeah. So fire away, anybody that has comment or questions.
Yeah, so I appreciate all the good work on this. I think this is definitely a needed conversation for sure. And, thanks, Derek, and thanks, Scott, for taking some good initiative to put something together here. I think it's important to kind of bundle them together. I think it's a good opportunity to, make a very clear and thoughtful statement all at once that is very inclusive. I love having kind of what you characterized as basically the hate crime legislation component of it. But I also think it's also important to send the word out that this is inclusive of all forms of discrimination behavior all at once, right? That way there's no misconceptions that we're, particularly targeting one class of discrimination over another. That would be my take. I'd love to just, take our time to do it, put it together right, do it at once, and it sends a very strong and clear message to the community.
Derek, I concur with what Lewis is saying. You and I have spoken, and I've spoken with Lewis about this. I'm uncomfortable with one area of this ordinance, and I'd like to see everything put together before I make a firm decision on which way I go on it. So I guess I'd like to see it all at once.
Yeah, I agree. We've talked before. I talked earlier today. Sorry, Tim. I know it's hard we start all talking at the same time. Just in conversations before, I know, I think that we should do this all together. I think it needs to be a comprehensive thing. I don't think what we have in front of us, while I think we can include a hate crimes portion in what we're going to do going forward, I think we need something that's comprehensive. I also don't think, just in general, something of this magnitude, I don't think we should vote on it on Monday. I think this is something that takes some time, that we need to make sure we've got our pieces together and everything's, the way that we would like it, with the way it's currently drafted as well, right? I mean, I think something of this magnitude, I don't really want to have to see it on a Wednesday and then vote on it on a Monday. I think it's something we can take a little bit of time and figure out what's going on. Let's make sure we get everything right, make sure all these definitions are locked down, that we're not causing some unintended consequences here. I mean, I think we talked earlier, Derek, and some of us others, about what we want to see in this more comprehensive plan, and I think those are discussions that we can start having now and start figuring out what we want to do. But to me, I don't think this is in a place where we need to be voting on it on Monday, and I want to see it in a comprehensive form. I think we should do something that's really a non-discrimination ordinance, and wait till we have that in place before we're voting on this.
I agree with you. Others? Travis, Tim, Glenn, Susan?
This is Travis. I agree with the sentiment of the virtual room. It seems like it's a good first step and a work in progress, and hopefully as we emerge from the pandemic, we can all start gathering in person again and sort of move to some next steps.
I think, first, thanks, to Derek, to you and Scott for, getting this where it is so far. It really is a tremendous leap forward, right, for the city, and I think for our residents. So it's great. It's great work. A couple things that I think we do want to have as benchmarks in our planning is, try to minimize the unintended consequences. And if you look at some of the other ordinances out there, it does seem like there's some pathways that cause some other problems that, in their judicial process. And I think for us, pushing it through the courts is the right way to do it, where you have judges who, that's their profession, is to make judgments and evaluate evidence. And I like that approach. I like, I would be thrilled to be the first city to be part of this, to be the first city, Cobb County, to have an effective NDO. So I think that's great leadership, and would love to set the bar for the rest of the county to follow.
Absolutely.
Scott, could I ask a question? Where does the state stand on anything regarding this issue?
Well, the state covers, there are federal laws and state laws that cover some, but not all of what our ordinance would cover. So, the idea is to cover some of the areas that the state doesn't cover, and that the Fed, there's federal anti-discrimination laws, federal housing discrimination laws, and there's state laws too. But our thought with what we have now it was kind of a no-brainer whether it's a standalone ordinance or a component part of an ordinance. What we have now is it's tied to our own ordinances. If you commit one of our own ordinances and through an act of discrimination, you're going to be punished more, right? So state law doesn't govern that as to our ordinances. What's to come down the pipe later? There's some state law on some of the, there's obviously everybody knows there's laws against discrimination based on race or based on age, based on gender. So, so there's overlap on some, but not all.
Glenn, Susan, anything to add?
I think a good beginning to start the discussion, and I look forward to continuing it. Thank you for the work that you've done on it already, Scott and Derek. I think I agree that we need to continue discussing it.
Okay.
I agree. I don't think it should be rushed through right now when we're kind of not even meeting in person, and I'd like to see the whole picture before something is voted on just in pieces.
Good. Well, it sounds like everybody's on the same page, and it sounds like what's the result of this initial conversation will be a comprehensive non-discrimination ordinance that we can all be proud of, and really sends a strong message that we don't tolerate any of that kind of stuff in Smyrna. So thanks everybody for your work on this, particularly Scott so far, and Tim and Travis and Austin Lewis for your phone calls today and all the time you spent on it. And I'll look forward to moving forward on this in the next little while and getting something done. The next item is the agenda review. Heather, can you put the agenda up on our screen? I think I'm seeing the second page there. All right. We'll have Father Sullivan is joining us. How do I scroll down on that, Heather? There we go. No land use zonings, annexations. We've got the consent agenda. Tammy, we have nothing under formal business?
No, sir, nothing under formal business. Everything is under consent.
Okay, so we've got approval of minutes from the last several committee of the whole and pre-council. Can you scroll down a little more, Heather, for me, please? Right there. This is the CDBG, continue as a CDBG subrecipient. Tammy, Rusty, y'all want to talk about that?
Actually, Mary is going to talk about it. Mary Arvin is our Community Development Block Grant Coordinator. So Mary, can you just give a brief background on this agenda item, please? Hey, Mary, turn your mic on.
So
why don't we come? Oh, go ahead.
While we're waiting on Mary, I have a question. Can we access the links to these documents on iLegislate on our computers?
Heather, that's a question for you. Is that?
You want to be able to access the agenda through iLegislate? You should be able to, yes, ma'am. It's been posted out there.
Okay, I was just looking. I don't know why it doesn't look like it's updated, you know, since we've been in, just now I just looked at it and it didn't look like it had been updated. It has February 3rd on there, but maybe we'll see. Maybe I just need to turn it off and reset it. Thank you.
Sure.
Do we have Mary yet to give us a little background on item F?
I don't think so.
Hey, well, we'll come back to that one. Mary, it looks like you're still muted either on your computer or on your phone.
Or both.
Or both.
But in the meantime, I mean, this is just an annual renewal that we do with Cobb County CDBG. We've been a part of the Community Development Block Grant Program for several years. And as a sub-recipient of that program, our grant money for the program year 2020 is $212,178.31. And we use CDBG funds for parks and recreation projects. We've used it in the past for public works projects. And we also fund our Ward 5 code enforcement officer through the CDBG grant as well. Mary, as your CDBG coordinator, we also get reimbursed for any of her work that she does through the program for the funds that we get from CDBG. So this is just an annual thing that we do with Cobb County.
Great.
Tammy,
Thank you,
this may be too early for this, but have we identified projects yet, other than what the inspector I know and Mary's salary comes out of it, but have we identified anything else yet?
Yeah, we have 3 projects, I believe, in Parks and Recreation. I think one is some restroom work over in the community center. And I'm not remembering what the other 2 are, but we can definitely get that list to you, Corky.
That's fine. I'm just curious, but that's all I have. It's
all right.
No issue with the item at all.
Thank you.
Any other questions on item F? Okay, the next item is item G. It's approval to purchase 2 2020 Ford Edge vehicles using emergency vehicle replacement funds. These were, it's my understanding, Chief, that these were replacing 2 vehicles that were wrecked, totaled out in no fault accidents. And they were what, Explorers before, and now Ford Edge, so we're actually saving money. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We had actually, good evening, Mayor and Council. We had actually started working on this pre-pandemic. And once we began seeing what the landscape was looking like, we swapped gears from looking at Ford Explorers to the less expensive Ford Edges, and in an attempt to save the money. And as the mayor said, we'd received a little over $28,000 in insurance money for 2 vehicles that were totaled over this past fiscal year. And we were able to save a total of about $6,000, a little over $6,000 in some vehicle upfits from vehicles we had purchased this fiscal year. And with that money, these 2 vehicles would cost out of the emergency vehicle replacement fund just over $22,000 rather than around $40,000 if we went with Explorers.
Great. Any questions for the chief on item G? I'm going to pause for a second because I meant to do this earlier. Recognize we've got Representative Eric Allen on the call, and I wanted to tell Representative Allen that if you're going to join us virtually, then you're going to have to show yourself on your camera. That's a rule that we have on our virtual committees of the whole, and we expect to see your current haircut, and I'll show you mine. But Representative Allen is on. I just wanted to recognize that he is here.
It's a new rule.
We'll go to item
tonight too, isn't it?
What's that?
I said it's a new rule as of tonight.
Yes, it's just implemented right now. So we got item H. That's the reappointment of the Downtown Development Authority for a partial term. Right now, they're April to April, and we're trying to get it to where their term ends at the end of the year. All of the, I understand, Christy, that all of them are agreeable to serve for their partial term, and so this is just a vote to do that, correct?
That is correct.
All right, and Heather, can you scroll just a little more for me, please? This is property liability insurance annual review. Carol, anything to give us on that?
It's just a standard annual renewal. We had a 3.3% rate increase, which was just a little over $20,000 this year. Predominantly the rate increase was attributed to the appraisals that we did. So we increased the total insured values on our coverage of over $6 million. So pretty straightforward, and we just are seeking approval to authorize GERMA to bind the coverage effective May 1st.
Great. Any questions, Carol? All right. I guess let's go around the horn. You can take that down, Heather, so we can see everybody. I'll start. I'll tell you, we are give an update on everybody for the Support Smyrna program, which is just, it continues to exceed every expectation I had. I mean, at the beginning of this, I thought we'd get maybe $5,000 or $10,000 and be able to help some folks. We just had to put an order in for another 400 yard signs, which brings us to 1,000 total. We have over 850 individual donors. And with the sign, some of the signs that have been donated and all of the funds that we've gotten, we've just cracked $75,000 raised to help those in need in Smyrna with gift cards to the grocery store. And that's just phenomenal. And I continue to call all of the recipients personally, and they are so grateful that we're doing this. In addition, we're tying that into the new program through the police and fire departments, where they are delivering groceries that are ordered at the grocery store for some of our vulnerable residents. And when we do that, they're getting the information about the $100 gift cards as well and applying, and it's all working together nicely and really making an impact. The other thing I wanted to let everybody know is that we're over $25,000 raised through the Tillman House for the hot food pickup program, and that's been expanded. We were doing 150 meals. Atkins Park was cooking 150 meals that were available Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And now we have 3 locations. Jonquil Park was added yesterday, and Chuck Camp Park will be added tomorrow, with Wade's restaurant doing one of them and Zuka doing the other. And there'll be 100 meals each at the same time from 4 to 5 p.m. So we'll have 350 meals on Monday, 350 meals on Wednesday, and 350 meals on Friday being delivered. And it's making a huge impact. I talked to Ashley Mize today over at Green Acres, and she said that she's very grateful for what we put together for the families and students that go to Green Acres. And I know that's similar at Argyle and other. It's just been a great, this community is just, it's amazing what we've been able to do, and everybody's stepping up to help their neighbors. So I just wanted to update y'all on that, and then we'll just go around the horn. Glenn, anything?
Just something real quick. I talked to Rusty about this the other day, just the need for basically publicizing the tree ordinance that was passed last year. There's been a lot of, I think, confusion, and a lot of people don't even know that it exists right now. I know a lot of people in my neighborhood are taking out massive trees and have no clue that it was passed last year. So I think he said that there's a plan to advertise it, but just letting y'all know.
Tammy, what is that plan? Where are we on that? And Jennifer, what have we pushed out? What's our plan as far as letting residents know? Rusty, anybody?
Yeah, we're trying to see if we can get with Kristen to get the little blurb on the water bill to see if we can reach everybody that way. We have it on our city website, and we've reached out to tree companies to let them know that they need to come get a permit for that stuff. And we are also, right now, the code enforcement guys, that's pretty much what they're doing, is driving around trying to catch guys doing work without a permit and get them to come in and get the process so we get them understanding what they need to do. We're not enforcing penalties on them. We're just trying to get them into compliance. So If we recognize an issue, we come get them to get the permit, and then we'll inspect to make sure they put the trees back that they're required to put back. But not with the penalties or the double fees for doing it without a permit at this point, because yeah, there are some people that are taking trees down without permits. We are getting a lot of calls before they even take down trees, and we're issuing permits that way, but there are some people that are slipping through the cracks.
Rusty, or Jennifer, if it's possible, if we could have something on social media, we can all post it out, and I'm sure Keep Smyrna Beautiful would be willing to help promote that as well. I know I've gotten a lot of calls, so thanks to Mr. Pickens for bringing it up.
It's something that we're probably going to have to do several times a year, especially when we get towards fall. But yeah, we can put some things together.
Or now when people are all home looking at ways to do things to their properties.
Yeah.
Right. So if we can get something up in the next couple of days, we can blast it out through all of our social media outlets.
We'll do. I'll work with Jennifer on it.
And Rusty, we can also add something to our next city administrators newsletter too.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Okay. Anything else, Glenn?
No, that's it.
All right, Austin?
No, nothing major. I just reiterate how proud I am to be part of Smyrna when you hear about these things like Support Smyrna, how much money we've raised for there, what the police department has decided to do and step up and deliver groceries and all these great programs that we put together. It's just a reason why we came here, and I'm proud to be a Smyrnan, but nothing other than that.
Did y'all see that some other cities in Georgia and some cities in Florida are calling Chief Bennett and asking what they're doing and implementing stuff like that there? It's amazing. It's pretty cool to see that we're having an influence on others to help people. Pretty cool stuff. Travis?
Yes, sir. Just wanted to start off by, I know as Derek mentioned, we've all been home under home arrest, as I call it. So hearing from lots of folks, and as we relay different issues to the city staff, as always, they've done a stellar job. So a huge thanks to each and all of them. I know the folks over in Williams Park and Rose Garden Hills and sort of all points around have hopefully seen the roundabout is finally open, and over there at Smyrna 5 Points. So if you're like me and you're looking for a daily outing, that can be the fun outing for the day. Actually, went and did it twice yesterday. Talked with a couple of folks today, including the chief and council member Gould and the mayor about an effort as we continue to sort of fine tune the city's traffic calming policy and sort of how we can get some action underway on that front. I know in Ward 3, there are a number of intersections that have been much discussed for many years and many councils looking at stop signs. So Councilmember Gould and the mayor and I are going to work on a list and look into all council members to sort of chime in, but putting together sort of I guess an ordinance, Derek, addressing intersections where we can put stop signs up and get that policy sort of moving along. So we'll be working on that, Tammy. Where'd your camera go? We'll be in touch with you on that, but finally get some resolution on a number of those key intersections. And these are in neighborhoods. These are not obviously on South Cobb Drive. So we'll be working on that over the next couple of weeks and have a list up to go public so everybody has some buy-in on that front. And then finally, echoing what some others have said so far, it is amazing the response with the two initiatives that the city has led on with helping our fellow citizens out. One thing, I've had a couple of people ask about how to donate. So if I'm on the city website now, if it's possible to have a quick flash link up on our landing page. That might be good. I know a couple of folks that have asked me are some of our less tech savvy residents, so I think the easier we can make it for them to give money, the better. But that's it from Ward 3. Thank you.
To your point, Travis, when you're talking about the stop signs, our discussion earlier was kind of idea was in the next month, maybe by the end of May, say, everybody, each council member look at the different areas. I mean, y'all know the hot spots in your wards about where people have been making noise about having a stop sign there. Compile that list. Hopefully that's enough time for y'all to do it, and then we'll put it all together and see where we're at and kind of evaluate all of that.
Exactly.
Okay. Corky?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to, I'm assuming that every one of the council people got calls about the trash last week. Yeah, sure they did. I want to commend the Public Works Department for the stickers. You know, I know that myself included, I did not read the sticker. And if it had been left up to me, my trash would have been sitting in the trash can. My wife read the sticker and took care of it, but very good idea. I was able to at least relay to the people that the new schedules are at least posted on your trash cans for the record for next year. But appreciate them doing that. And I had several calls on it. Finally, you know, I think the initiatives that the city's done has been a great thing. We're certainly a great city, and proud to be a part of the city and proud to be a part of the city council. I miss you guys. Like to see you personally and face to face, but we'll be back there soon, I hope. With that, I yield.
Susan?
Hi, everybody. So I want to talk a little bit about what Travis was saying about the stop signs. And I, don't disagree that they're in Ward 5, there's places where they're needed. I think I hear more about people running the ones that we have. So just want to add that. That's what a lot of the residents tell me, that the ones that are in place, people don't stop at. And so that's one thing. And then the other thing are people asking for speed humps. And I've been hearing it, probably hearing from people more now that we're all home than even usually. So I always hear from people, but it seems like a lot of folks are spending more time in Smyrna. And so they're communicating some of those issues, with the cars. There's not as many cars on the road. The traffic is not there, but then the speeding that I hear about through the neighborhoods and wanting speed humps, that's there. Desiring speed humps. I've also heard from people that have observed the work that's going on Church Street that would like to see some of that goodwill on the west side of South Cobb Drive. Some of the improvements with sidewalks and traffic calming measures that have been done, like the traffic circle and things like that. So I have heard from them about that as well. Also have heard from some people about the properties on South Cobb Drive where there are a lot of the vehicles parked. That's been a kind of a concern even before the pandemic with the commercial vehicles. There's several parking lots in Ward 5 that seem to be used for other purposes than what the businesses was there for. Ruby Tuesdays is one that's been mentioned to me, the fireworks store, and then some of those parking lots up there near Smyrna Grove have also been used to park vehicles. So that's been a concern that people have asked me, talked to me about. And additionally, and maybe it's just, the circumstances, but the condition of, they pointed out one bus stop in particular on South Cobb Drive where there were, I went and rode by there yesterday, but there were 3 grocery carts at the bus stop, like laying over sideways, and just, they want to see some of that type of thing addressed. So, but, and with that, appreciate all the work that is going into the Support Smyrna program and the updates tonight in terms of the finances. That is really awesome. And to see that our community is stepping up like that. And thank you. It's an interesting way to do our meetings. So it's good to see everybody's face up here now at once. Thank you.
Susan, I know that I heard earlier today you had some questions about the Support Smyrna program. Is there anything that hasn't been answered that you have additional questions on, or anything at all on that?
Well, I kind of wanted to see more of the specifics in terms of how the money was being broken down. I think y'all said some of it tonight, and that's what I didn't understand. The gift cards, the grocery store gift cards, I think I've heard different amounts as far as what that is. You said $100. Is that what they are?
It's $100. It's $100, and there's an application process. The only thing that we're doing as a city is promoting it, and Penny is organizing and processing all of the applications. Everybody who has applied, except for I think 3, if I'm correct, 2 that were not in the city, and 1 who had already applied and received a gift card, tried to come again and get another one, and everybody else has been accepted. I think she got the word is spreading, and so there are a lot more applications coming in, which is great. That's what we want. We put notifications at Tillman House. We put them at Jonquil yesterday, and we'll keep them at Chuck Camp, so that we're, obviously those folks are in need, and this is a way for them to get connected with that need as well. But everything else, it's done. The Support Smyrna is done through the Smyrna Public Safety Foundation. That's the clearinghouse for all of the funds. So any checks for signs or buying gift cards and all that is done through their treasurer there, in coordination with Penny. And then all the funds that have been raised through the Tillman House are administered through there. So they are, Tillman House representatives in the church are dealing with Atkins, Wades, and Zuka on all of that, all of the logistics. Really our role is promoting, and then from the Support Smyrna side, the staff support, which has really been, Penny's been a one-person show getting that thing all organized, and has done a really good job, not only coordinating the application process and recipients, but also getting the signs out, because that's no small feat. So far, we've put out 600 signs, and we got 400 more coming. And I think the breakdown, if I remember correctly, as of this morning, was like $56,000 in online donations, just individual donations. And as I said, there's over 850 of those. And then we got 5,000 donated from Kroger, 1,500 from Publix. I think we have a $5,000 check from the Susan Darby Foundation coming that Joan Stewart has been helpful coordinating. And then there's been some individual donations to help cover the cost of signs, and then Commercial Signs has been good enough to not only slash prices of their signs, but also donate some signs and stakes to us as well. So really pleased with how it's going. If there's any questions that anybody ever has, please don't hesitate to ask.
May I add, there is a button now on the homepage temporarily while we've got parks and things on hold. I took the Parks and Recreation Programs button, which is underneath the COVID-19 response for citizen and business info. It now says Support Smyrna Programs, and it should go straight to that page.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So just to be clear, so when people donate, it goes through the Smyrna Public Safety Foundation, and then
correct.
The funds from there are used to buy the grocery store gift cards that is coordinated through Penny. And then are some of those funds also used to donate to the Tillman or to the food for the Atkins Park? That's
No, not yet. That they have only been used for gift cards up to this point. I mean, if there was a situation where we had extra funds down the road that, the need, that we had more funds than the need, which I don't anticipate, then we can talk about that then. But right now, it's solely used for gift cards, these grocery gift cards for these families.
Okay. And also, I'm assuming for the citizens that when they donate, that's also a tax deduction when they donate.
It is, yeah, because both the Tillman House and the Smyrna Public Safety Foundation, yes, those are tax deductible donations.
Okay, that's awesome. And then what I want to add is, let's see, I want to send my condolences to all the people that have had family members that have been sick with the COVID virus, that and any condolences to anyone that has lost anybody. I wanted to make sure mention that tonight. And then I think that with that I yield.
All right, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. A few things to touch on. First, Rusty, I want to connect with you on a house on Glenhurst. It's been on my list to do, so just got to come up with a plan on that one to map out some ordinance issues. So I'll reach out to you on that one tomorrow. Hey, we just had a finance meeting today with Kristen, giving us an update on what our expected revenues will be through the end of the year, and then making some plans for next year. So Corky chairs that committee, and appreciate his leadership, the mayor's and Kristen's on this. We're going to have some challenges ahead of us, which I think staff understands are going to take appropriate measures to cut expenses where they can. But it's definitely something worthwhile talking about, because the residents are going to see it and feel it at some point, right? So as we all will. So it's an issue out there in front of us. Travis, thanks for your bringing up the issue about the stop signs. I know many folks in my ward will be happy to make some suggestions of places where stop signs are needed. So we'll get on that list. And then just want to mention something. One of the cooler things I've seen in a while, and maybe most of you saw it, but the Timothy Miller singing "God Bless America" all around Smyrna. That was one of the best things I've seen, and brought a tear to my eye first thing the other morning. So I really appreciate the Braves making that happen, and seeing so many of our public safety folks in it, and folks working at the grocery stores, and everybody else in the community who are really making our lives livable during these tough times. So I really appreciate what they do. So that, Mr. Mayor, I yield.
So speaking of public safety and budget gaps, it sounds to me like what I'm looking at on the Smyrna Police Department Facebook site is correct. The super speeders in East-West Connector are going to be paying for a lot of our budget gap. Is that right, Chief?
Yes, sir, Mayor. It became a real issue on Windy Hill Road, South Cobb Drive, East-West Connector. I've seen the super speeders, so the traffic unit was sent out to try to slow some people down. And so far they have slowed quite a few down, and they're going to continue to.
But talk about some of the excessive speeds that y'all have run across, particularly on the East-West Connector in the 45-mile-an-hour zone.
70s, 80s, that's on the heels of a vehicle being split in half, striking a tree. We had a rollover crash in front of Smyrna Police Distributors that was more than likely speed related and vehicle or mechanical failure. On the heels of those two crashes, and again, just what I was seeing and observing, just riding around, the driving manifestations were less than safe.
Thanks for all the work y'all are doing on your traffic enforcement. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chief, we need to talk about this speeder ticket that I've got. So
let's do that offline.
I'm just kidding with you.
And thank you all for the leadership that you're providing.
Lewis?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned something about that, Chief Bennett. Probably not 10 minutes before I saw the Facebook post about the super speeder and all that business on the East-West Connector. I got a text from a resident saying somebody just flew past me on the East-West Connector, had to be going 90 miles an hour. So I sent them back the Facebook picture, because they're not on Facebook, and said where folks are looking at.
You said they
so
got
I definitely appreciate it. Yeah. So get off your phone. Stop texting while you're driving.
Yeah, seriously.
And funny enough, I've had calls from 2 residents in Ward 7 thanking us for being down there.
Yeah. Very, very much appreciated for sure. That's one of our big areas of concern traffic wise. One one quick thing that I think I spoke to several of you all about. I wasn't able to, get everyone on the phone over the last couple of days to talk about it. But probably this relates to a particular opportunity that I found out about that I think would be a really cool opportunity for the city potentially. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Georgia Smart Initiatives program. This is a grant program that is managed through Georgia Tech, actually. And they receive funding from a bunch of different agencies to facilitate a grant program to find technological solutions to municipal needs, right? That's basically the short and simple version of the story. For cities that are in the Atlanta region, those have to be related to transit or traffic somehow. That's sort of by mandate because the money comes through the Department of Transportation and funds through the ARC in that way. So I talked with Derek a little bit. I talked with Tammy as well early on, as soon as I found out about the launching of the grant program for this year, to get some thoughts about, is it feasible, and so that they can understand kind of the parameters of it. And I'll lay out the simple version of how this works. Basically, awarded cities receive $100,000 in cash through the grant program, an additional $50,000 of a faculty at Georgia Tech who does research in the space of interest. So not me, in other words. No one cares about neuroscience within the city of Smyrna, so that's cool. So it will be somebody probably from engineering or civic, development or something like that. As well, you get a summer of a full-time student at Georgia Tech, typically a grad student, who is working full-time on the project. So the total benefit to cities is roughly in the ballpark of $175,000 total in cash or in personnel. The side of this that is even more pertinent is the fact that there is a matching portion on the cash side. So there's if you go to the max $100,000 of a cash grant request, you have to match 20%. So it would be total cash pot of $120,000, right? That is mandated by the program. Most cities, of our size, typically they're able to manage this through a couple different ways, as I've been kind of asking around about. But it has to be pretty clear during the application phase. So one of the things, I asked Tammy about this, and also Penny and Joey, I think, were kind of involved with thinking about some ideas. One of the areas that I was particularly interested in is one of the problem areas in Ward 7 that sort of extends into other wards, and that's all the feeder stuff popping off of South Cobb Drive, Oakdale Road area, Highlands Parkway area, 285, all that stuff, and feeding north. It's kind of a perpetual problem, and it's probably our biggest, as far as I see, and it links with the annexation study, it's probably one of the areas that really hurts and limits our growth in the city. So, if we were to move forward with something like this idea, we would obviously, because of the 20% match, we would need to, generally be okay with that, and with the general gist of the project, so that we could move forward with the grant proposal.
I think it's a great idea.
Any questions, Lewis? Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer.
I concur. Mayor, Lewis and I talked about this a little earlier today. If I can spend 20,000 to get 100 any time, I think it's money well spent. Certainly, we can put together a good project for it.
Any other questions, Lewis? And Lewis, do you have anything else?
Nope, that covers it. Thanks, guys.
Austin, I saw your microphone light up. Were you about to?
No, I'm just saying. Lewis and I talked about it before, but I'm just saying to the group, I think it's a good idea too. Like Corky said, I mean, it's $20,000 to get 100-something thousand back and get a good study and see what we can do with it. So I'm in support.
All right, Tammy.
I wanted to share with the council in regards to Campbell High School. Our staff have issued the land disturbance permit, also the building permits for the interior renovations. The performing arts building and the classroom buildings have been issued. So I just wanted to make sure that you all were aware that had taken place. And that's all I have.
Any questions or comments on that for Tammy?
Yeah, I think it's good to know. I mean, we need to do the right thing, obviously, and help the high school move forward and a big part of our community. But I mean, might as well say we're disappointed with how the lack of communication from the district side with, you know, with the local neighbors. A couple of council folks will speak more, you know, clearly about that, right? But we'd hope to improve the relationship with the county staff, district staff, and we got a lot of work to do together, right? And look forward to some creative partnerships in the future.
Yeah, this is Travis. I concur. I think the city has made many efforts to, through the mayor, Tim, Susan, myself, and certainly our capable staff have reached out and continue to reach out. One of my big requests of them is that they just be transparent with the people that live around the school. And I recognize that and maybe they don't fully understand, though I submit they do, but simply notifying parents of those that go to the school is not notification. There's a lot of the people that I've heard from that back up right to the school and will be looking at something literally 2 feet off their property line, didn't know until they happened to figure out through the city's dealings on the matter. And, you know, as a reminder to everybody, as we've talked and worked to be transparent on our end, the city has very little, really nothing to do with what goes on that property. We've offered up, I think, some sound recommendations from an engineering and community development perspective. And all of that has been submitted in writing, and the responses we have gotten have been less than cordial. I would argue not even really professional. But nonetheless, as everybody has said, we continue to try and build that relationship. Got many schools, and the people the Cobb County School Board represent is the same people we represent, and I think it behooves us all to make sure we get it right. So I'm hopeful we'll hear back from those elected officials on the Cobb County School Board and the superintendent. I know the beat goes on.
I'll tell you, I've been very disappointed with the communication and approach that the school district has. You know, going back to before some of us were elected, about how the clear cutting of King Springs without any really notice, the holding up the speed cameras that we voted on as a council and decided was the best for our city. You know, this whole back and forth of the education committee of the Smyrna Council meeting and coming up with questions that they thought were needed to be answered. Susan and Tim and Travis and y'all have done a good job communicating on behalf of your constituents. You know, what we'd like to know. What are they? You know, here are some of these concerns. Here's some of these questions. And to get a letter back when we've sent a letter as a council to the superintendent, to get a letter back through his attorney, of the school board's attorney, that basically dismisses every single question and request that we had. As we're the school board, we don't have to, thank you for bringing this up, but we don't have to answer to y'all, is really not the way that a school district ought to be communicating with an elected body of a city where they have schools. So that's just my personal take. And I think that there's a lot of work to be done mending the relationships with the superintendent in particular, and maybe some of the representatives there. And I'd be open to any other comments.
And thank you for everything you just said, Derek. I appreciate it. I represent probably a couple of thousand people whose neighborhoods are going to be suffering from the additional ingress and egress from the changes that are being made. And I've been trying to communicate that through my voice and through letters about the concerns, because I do think that many people that live in this neighborhood, the neighborhood that doesn't have an HOA to be a voice for them, don't have children at the high school and don't have any idea about what is the changes that are going to be made and how they're going to be impacted from these changes. So I do also hope going forward that we can have more discussions around these things that are going to be happening with the board, and possibly even make some adjustments to some of the things that we made our bullet points about, our concerns. These are all to do with the ingress, egress, parking, pedestrian access, and protective buffer from the neighborhoods that we had pointed out in our letter to the school board that we wanted to have a discussion about. And we still haven't had that opportunity to make any adjustments to those concerns. But anyway, thank you.
And I'll just tell y'all, I got a phone call from the superintendent. I guess it was it earlier this week, Travis, or was it end of last week? I can't remember which, but just basically demanding that we release that land disturbance permit, that we're holding up the progress of the school. And I said, look, all I want is for there to be a conversation with Susan, Tim, Travis, our education committee, those that represent people who have direct questions about what's about to happen to the land right next to them. And I asked for him to get back to me with the time to meet, and I never heard anything back. And it kind of puts us as a city in a box, because we're forced to make a decision of whether we are going to delay a project that is ultimately, I think we'd all agree, it's great that we're having these projects with Campbell done, but we don't have our questions answered yet. And so I still don't have an answer about when we're all going to get together and talk about these things. And I would encourage all of you, particularly those of you with constituencies in direct relation to that site, to continue to reach out to both the superintendent and the school board members to sit down and talk about this. We have, I think, even elected officials to the school board elected officials. If we can't get through to the superintendent, then maybe we can talk to some of the elected officials there. I don't see why we're being dismissed like this, and that shouldn't be the case.
I would note, Mr. Mayor, I think that's great info for everybody on council and listening in. I would note that Council Member Wilkerson and I both requested a meeting with the chairman of the school board, the highest elected official over the Cobb County School Board, and we're told to deal, Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, but to deal with the superintendent. So it is this, and I know Susan has had a conversation with our elected school board member, Mr. Howard, and I would say to no avail, but there have been many instances where we as an elected body have reached out, and many of our staff that are online tonight with us. And it is very, it all comes back to us asking once again. So I think it's time that they pay attention to what we're asking, and because we're all being asked by our constituents. I represent the facility, Campbell High School, and we're getting questions from folks that have lived there a long time and folks that have just bought brand new homes, and they have valid questions that I think we owe them our response. And certainly the school board should step up and be transparent about what they're doing. I would note in one of the responses that they had taken public comment, and that is just flatly false. They did not take public comment because there was never any meeting about what they were going to do at Campbell. And I would say very similarly what happened at King Springs. But I would note every time they ask us to do something, whether it's the land disturbance permit for Campbell High School or the extended hours that to the dismay of some of our homeowners around King Springs. We consistently do what they ask because it's the right thing to do, yet consistently stonewalled with simple things like be transparent, tell us what you're going to do, so we can in turn tell the people of Smyrna. Sadly, to no avail. It is maddening, truly maddening.
One of the things that I think, just, from the education committee side, I know Tim, we had the one meeting that was supposed to be scheduled right when all this, the coronavirus stuff broke out. And I know that, or at least I thought that Jahal was supposed to be in attendance at that meeting. Maybe we can, schedule in lieu of having a physical meeting anytime soon. It might be good to perhaps have a virtual meeting, schedule it with him, and just try to clean the slate a little bit, start over, start with some discrete things, and kind of work up to build up that kind of relationship. I think just a suggestion out there. I'd be more than happy to have a meeting like that for the committee. Just thought.
Lewis, that's a great idea, and I'll just tell you, even as recently as this evening, before this meeting, I was communicated to by a member of the school board saying that he's not able to facilitate a meeting with our education committee, me and the superintendent at this time. When I pressed, there wasn't any reason given. So I would think your approach is a good step, absent any other options at this point.
I want to just comment on Lewis's suggestion. I think that's a good idea as well. But I also wanted to take the opportunity while we're on this forum to mention that the gymnasium, which is a beautiful gymnasium that was added, a year or two ago, was actually built and took up some of the available parking that was there at the school. And just as a comparison, and then they're going to be adding the Performing Arts Center in the rear of the property, back where there's currently parking available. And then they also have another event center back there, the football stadium, in the kind of rear of the property. And my concern for the people that in Smyrna, the Smyrna citizens and the residents in this area, is the gymnasium holds 3,000 people. When I did a little bit of research to compare the Performing Arts Center, the Cobb Energy Center, holds, I think it was about 3,000 people as well, or 2,600, just as a, just a comparison to how many people could attend an event at that one facility. And then the Roxy Theater, I think, holds a little bit over 3,000. And I just, my concern is the parking and how that's going to impact the neighborhood, or the lack of the parking and the parking that's being taken up. And I know that they're adding some spots here and there. It just, I don't, see, I think these are all good things, and I think they're good for the community. I just feel that if we could work together to resolve some of these issues, it could benefit the city as well as the school system. And so just wanted to bring that up as well. Thank you. Oh, also.
Anybody else, any comments?
I can also add that I had the opportunity to have a meeting with Dr. Howard, our representative on the school board, and we did look at the letter that the council had sent and the bullet points. We really only got to maybe the first 4 of the bullet points, but I don't really feel like we had anything resolved, and we didn't get to the other issues that were concerns as far as the discussion. But I do look forward to continuing to meet and having some public meetings with, in terms of whether it's this format in a virtual setting, or once the pandemic is over and we're able to go back to other meetings. I look forward to working with, with Dr. Howard and maybe other members of the school board, or even the engineers that are working on this project, to see how that some of these concerns can be resolved. Thank you.
Ms. Heather, anything?
Just very quickly, Granicus, are you all getting an echo? You are, hold on one second. Okay, Granicus has been working with us to try to, hold on, I can still hear it, sorry. Let me try. Better, okay. Granicus has been working with Chris and I to live stream our meetings through Legistar. So we are going to run a test meeting tomorrow. And what that means is as we are doing our go-to meeting on here, we would be able to connect to our encoder and actually live stream it. So the people that watch our meetings on Monday nights would be able to continue to watch our meetings through the Legistar app on our website. We are also adding a free e-comment to our agendas that will be starting after this next meeting, where people can review our items on the agenda and be able to make comment on each item. Those will be sent to the clerk's office and we can send those out prior to having our meetings, where we might be able to address any questions or concerns prior to going into meeting. And other than that, Court Services has started working a part-time schedule back in the office. We have 2 ladies in there at a time to maintain social distancing, and they are processing all of the tickets and payments that are coming in with Joe's work on the education and speeding that's going on in the city. And that's all I have.
And is Miss Tina on?
Tina is on.
Yes, Tina, anything to add? I know that you have, for the last almost 3 weeks now, have been taking almost 100 calls a day. I don't know if the council knows that, but I want to say thank you to you for doing all that. I know that there's been a lot of questions from citizens, and you've been kind of the clearinghouse for all of that. I understand that we've got some help coming to you, and that's being divvied up now that we've got some cell phones in the hands of our receptionists. But just wanted to say thank you for all that you're doing, and open it up to you if there's anything you want to add.
Thank you for, I guess, the kudos. I appreciate that very much. Just the biggest controversy that we've had was the trash. But I just kind of, people were excited to know that there was a sticker on their trash can they never paid attention to before. It just kind of, it gave me the opportunity, because one of my favorite parts about this job is working with the public, and I don't always get to do that so much in a big city as opposed to the smaller one I was at before. So I've really actually enjoyed it, being able to interact with people and made some new friends. So I can't wait to get back to the city, because I have lunch dates set up.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for all you're doing. Christy, anything?
No, sir. Richard and I delivered some signs today, so that was fun. While we were out, lots of people were asking about them and how they could donate, so we got the word out. So it was fun.
That's spreading like wildfire with those signs. It's great. And
awesome.
Everybody's gearing up for the virtual GMA conference, right? Kristen?
No, I don't have anything. I talked enough earlier today, so I think I'm good. Thank you.
Rusty?
No, sir, I don't have anything today. I'll work with Jennifer to get the notification pushed out on the tree permit stuff for you guys this week.
Thank you. Chief Bennett, anything?
Yes, sir. I would like to reiterate to any of the citizens that may be tuned in here to please, please, please slow down. I certainly don't want to add fatalities on our roadways to our current environment and our current landscape. So I would again beg of everyone just to slow down and make it wherever you're going safely. That's it.
Scott Cochran?
Nope, got nothing that I hadn't already said.
Carol?
No, sir, I'm good.
Miss Penny?
Nope, all good.
Okay. Chief Acree, anything on the emergency management side of things?
Nothing from me right now, Mayor. Thank you.
Landon, will you please show your picture? Oh, there we go. Oh, rugged, very rugged.
You know, I
Nice.
figured this would probably be the last chance I get to grow a good beard, so you just got to do it now. Right?
Good stuff.
It looks really good.
I
I
see
don't know.
Greg Teague. I see Greg Teague's on here. Anything, any updates on SPLOST or upcoming SPLOST, anything at all?
Mr. Mayor, first of all, I just want to say thank you to the mayor and council for keeping business going. Your staff's done a great job of keeping the process going, and for us in the business community, that's the biggest thing y'all can do for each one of us is keep business going. To that, we have Windy Hill. We should be getting that kicked off with some land disturbance on that one. We've got the water and sewer contractor out there now, and we should be getting Baldwin paving started in early May. So look for some progress happening on that.
Great, thank you. And last but certainly not least, Jennifer Bennett, anything?
Nope, I'm quiet tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for all you're doing, getting the information out that we need to get out. If there's
My
nothing
pleasure.
else, we're adjourned. We'll see everybody on Monday. Thank you.